Hello, welcome to The Wild Review. I'm The Wild Reviewer, and today I'm going to review a thing. So I guess it's pretty safe to say that everything on Nickelodeon these days is terrible. Don't get me wrong, I've seen the stuff on Nickelodeon. I sometimes watch Henry Danger and Nicky, Ricky, Dicky, Dawn, whatever the name of the show is. I do watch some of the shows on Nickelodeon, however, I don't think the plots to them are good as they used to be. I'm not saying anything's wrong with the show, I'm just... well, kind of, actually, yeah, I guess you could say I'm kind of saying that. Nickelodeon is not what it used to be back in the old day. Nickelodeon was this awesome place where kids got to watch their favorite shows that made sense. Nowadays, since basically everything on television has already been done, they're just remakes of stuff. Not to say actual remakes, but it feels like it's already been made. It's safe to say that the last good Nickelodeon show that I ever actually saw was Super Ninjas. I did think the show was pretty awesome in a way. I was kind of into that action-packed, secret identity kind of stuff. Though I was heartbroken when I heard that it was not going to be renewed for a third season. Mostly since it ended on a cliffhanger that now I want to know how it ends. Like, what the hell, Nickelodeon? Why couldn't you... Why? What? So yeah, we can basically say Nickelodeon has lost its image. Especially the one show that will not get off the air, SpongeBob. It is definitely the only reason I think Nickelodeon is still a thing. I mean, think about it. Nickelodeon is practically made up of all SpongeBob. SpongeBob is played almost 8 times a day, and they don't even play the... well, sometimes they play the good episodes, but not all the time. It's once in a blue moon when they play a good episode from a good season. The reason why SpongeBob isn't good anymore is because it's been on for so long. It's as old as me by like 3 months. And I don't know, it's just lost its image. It's lost its magic that it had. SpongeBob was one of those shows that you'd come home to after school and you just have a laugh. Nowadays, you watch SpongeBob and you try to figure out, what the hell did I just watch? And I know SpongeBob is not technically for us specifically anymore, being teenagers and all, but, I mean, you still want to watch it if it's going on. You at least just want to see what it's like, considering it is your childhood. They'll put suicide jokes in SpongeBob and think it's funny, and they won't really care, seeing on how it's for children, and kids won't understand what it is. Why does SpongeBob have suicide jokes in the first place? I mean... though I will say this, SpongeBob is a good example to why I am happy that all the old Nickelodeon shows have ended. And I'm admitting, I am happy all those shows ended. I'm happy Ned's Declassified ended. I'm happy Drake and Josh ended. Rugrats. I'm happy almost like all the old shows on Nickelodeon ended. And here's why. Because I want you to think about it, if Nickelodeon shows that we used to love were still on today, they wouldn't be as great as they used to be. SpongeBob is the perfect example, seeing on how it's been on for so long and it's lost its image. It's ran its course, but Nickelodeon doesn't think it has. Shows like Rugrats, Hey Arnold, Ned's Declassified, even the Naked Brothers Band, they all had their time and they knew when it was time to leave because they didn't want to be ruined by anything. SpongeBob never fell into that hole. I mean, just think about it if Rugrats was still on today. Yes, they had their spin-off, which was actually pretty successful with them being teenagers and all, but, I mean, it wouldn't work anymore. What, a new baby would be born? That doesn't solve anything. Just because you're adding a new character does not mean you can keep the show going. Oh, wait, I guess it technically does. Well, you gotta do it right. I mean, if you're gonna add a new character, you at least need to do it right. Though it's safe to say that SpongeBob is not the only one that falls into this little hole that will never escape Nickelodeon. There is another show that at least I think is still running. I mean, like, I don't even know anymore. I think it's off the air. I think it's not sometimes. I'm surprised when I see promos that it's still going on. I'm talking about The Fairly Odd Parents. This show was the second best show on Nickelodeon. I'd say second because SpongeBob obviously came in first, but that is when all this was in the good times, like in the good ages. The Fairly Odd Parents was one of those shows that you could definitely laugh to, and it did have its good jokes. It had some memorable lines, it had good characters. It was, it was good all around. Until now. Fairly Odd Parents is still running, and it's not doing that well. Well, to some kids it is. I mean, hell, it was nominated for a Kids' Choice Awards this year. But honestly, I don't think it should be running anymore. This is another example on why I'm happy that other Nick shows are off the air, or not running anymore. If a show runs too long, you know that's a problem. If you make it past your 8th season and nothing has changed, or at least something is changing that is bringing your viewers down, that is a problem. So there's a reason why Fairly Odd Parents does not work anymore, but for those people who don't know what Fairly Odd Parents is, here's a little thing about it. The Fairly Odd Parents is a show that revolves around a boy named Timmy Turner. He's 10 years old and has an odd life. He's got a weird bunch of friends, including 2 of them which he considers ex-friends. He's got a crush on a popular girl who won't even give him the time of day and won't even bother to remember his name. He gets beat up all the time, and he's not doing well in school because he's got a crazy teacher who likes giving him Fs. So it's your basic middle school drama kind of thing. On top of that, he's left alone with his evil babysitter who tries to get away with murdering him all the time because he has parents that really don't listen to him that much and kind of seem like they don't care, seeing on how they always are leaving him alone with his babysitter. But they don't know that she's evil. So it's safe to say Timmy is definitely a miserable kid, and because he's miserable, he is granted 2 fairy godparents named Cosmo and Wanda, who are married. It's important that you know that.
Oh yay, marriage!
He's gifted fairy godparents, so this way he can be a happy kid, and he can basically wish whatever he wants for, except he does have to listen to a few rules on what he can and cannot wish for, and he also can't blow the secret of having fairy godparents to anybody, considering that if he does, he will get them taken away from him forever and will have no memory that he's ever had fairy godparents. Like that little plot, it changes throughout the show. Don't worry about that. We're getting there. It's fun to know that this show didn't actually start out as a show. It actually started out as a 7-minute short on the show called Oh Yeah Cartoons, which ran from 1998 to 2001. Only 3 mini shows that were on this show got their own show. Wow, that's a tongue twister. 3 shows that got their own show. The 3 shows were Chalk Zone, My Life as a Teenage Robot, and The Fairly Odd Parents. The Fairly Odd Parents was one of those shows that did extremely well. I'm not sure about the other 2, but they were pretty cool. I like those shows. Yeah, memories, yay. In 2001, The Fairly Odd Parents aired, and it ran all the way from 2006, at least for its original run. I'll get to that in a minute. During the show's original run, you could say it was probably the best moments of the Fairly Odd Parent history. They had some pretty cool 6 seasons, they had some awesome 30-minute specials, they had wicked awesome television movies. Hell, this show even had a crossover with Jimmy Neutron. 3 times! I have all 3 on DVD, and it's pretty awesome. So it's safe to say that Fairly Odd Parents had a good run from 2001 all the way to 2006. There weren't really any episodes in 2007 because the show had gone on hiatus, and most people actually thought the show was cancelled. However, I specifically remember watching this on TV. There was a little special called 77 Secrets About the Fairly Odd Parents, or at least something called like that, and it was basically going to talk about the secrets of the Fairly Odd Parents. Like, there were any. Well, no, there were some. I mean, like, it mostly talked about the references and why there were references, and yeah. One of the last secrets being that there is a new character coming to the Fairly Odd Parents, which kind of shows that it's not ending. And we were introduced to this new character in 2008 in the special Fairly Odd Baby, where we now step into the new Fairly Odd Parents era. We're slowly going to roll out of the original run and go into the new run, which is kind of scary. But right now, we got the new character, Poof. Yeah, in Season 7 we got a new character named Poof, and this is when the show kind of changes. A lot of people like to agree that the introduction of Poof was a bad idea to the show, and is somewhat how Fairly Odd Parents died, but in my opinion, I don't think that. I think if anything, Poof was actually a cool idea to add to the show, seeing that these guys are married. I mean, you know, it makes sense. Wife and husband, baby. I mean, it could work. So I don't think Poof was a bad idea to bring into the show, mostly because, you know, it's not like he was brought in and did absolutely nothing. There were storylines around him. And yes, this showed that they were running out of ideas and obviously needed a new character to bounce off of, literally, since he bounces. But the stories that surround Poof are actually kind of cool and kind of funny a little. And I do have to say, the ending of Season 7 is pretty cool, considering on how it ends with an awesome 3-hour trilogy thing. Television movie. Wishology. This trilogy was awesome, and was also probably the last thing ever to be shown from the original Fairly OddParents run. Like, I'm pretty sure this is the last time we saw any of these characters have a main role. Because they're just not in, they're either not in Season 8 or they're just not main anymore. The story in Wishology was awesome. I enjoyed the main guest appearance from Kiss. I just think the story itself was pretty awesome. And I also thought that was the end of Fairly OddParents. Until one day when I was at my grandma's house and I saw a promo for this. Yeah, you. Foop. So, Season 7 we got introduced to Poof. So in Season 8 we got introduced to his anti-self. We got introduced to Anti-Poof in Season 8, and I guess it made sense, because every fairy needed an anti-fairy in this series, so I guess it made sense. But at the same time, I'm not sure if it was a good idea, because now we are actually starting to get out of the original run and go into the new run, which the new run is terrible. So I'm not sure this was a good idea. It's also nice to note that in this season, it's not much about Timmy anymore. It's actually starting to become more of a Foop-Poof thing. Like, it's more focusing on them being enemies instead of Timmy half the time. Though, there are episodes with Timmy, it's just that it seems like it's focusing more on Foop and Poof instead of him. Also, I'd just like to state that this is kind of the last time we ever get to see Anti-Cosmo and Wanda, considering that Foop is now going to be the main anti of the whole series, kind of. Though Season 8 isn't as good as the other previous seasons and a little of Season 7, I would like to say that I did like 2 episodes in the season itself. The one episode I like is Meet the Odd Parents, which is a good way to end the series, but at the same time isn't. And obviously it wasn't the end because there were more episodes afterwards. But it would have made a good series finale. Cosmo and Wanda meet Timmy's parents. I mean, it's pretty obvious within the title, but of course everything has to go back to normal and stuff. Plus also by this time, it's kind of stupid on how they meet each other, even though they've already met in Abracadastrophe, they've met in Wishology, they've met a couple of times. I know their minds, I know they're getting like, I know their memories are being wiped when they meet them, but I don't know. I just think it's old, but I do like the episode because, you know, it would seem like a cool finale and stuff. The other episode I like, which I do like this one, it's Timmy's Secret Wish. I didn't think this special would be, you know, special. It was a 1-hour special, so I don't know what was so special about it. But overall, I did think it was actually pretty cool in the end, considering that it's doing something that no other cartoon does. It explains why nobody aged in the show. That's how cartoons and usually kids shows would work. Nobody would age in the show, and yet even though they would have a birthday, it would be on a floating timeline. Like the whole show would be on a floating timeline where everybody is the same age every day for the rest of their lives. That's called a floating timeline, and they kind of explained why. And it can kind of work with this, considering that you have magic fairies to grant this wish and stuff. Timmy's secret wish in this special was that he wished that everybody would stop aging, so this way he can keep his fairies forever. Because when you get to a certain age, you lose them. And he made this wish 50 years in the past, which explains why nobody has aged. I think that's pure genius in a way, like making that wish on how nobody ages. That would explain everything on why nobody's aging or anything. However, they had to ruin it by aging everybody in the middle of the special when, you know, the wish was canceled. And sadly, those were the last 2 Fairly OddParents episodes ever that I enjoyed, because now we enter Season 9. Season 9, we get introduced to a new character. Again. Sparky. Why? Why? I don't like Sparky. I don't. I've seen him, and I don't like him. I think he was a waste. The thing with Sparky is that it was kind of the same situation with Fairly Odd Baby. Cosmo and Juana wanted a baby, so they had one. Timmy wants a pet, so we got one. Sparky is a magic dog from Fairy World. He plays no role in any of these episodes. He plays very little, but not like Poof did. Poof at least played a main role in most of the episodes. Sparky I remember this one episode, he was there and he was gone. He said like one line and he was gone. Like, why have him in the show? It's also safe to say that season 9 is the introduction of really bad episodes. If you've been watching the show, you may not know this, but they're kind of repeating episodes. I remember the Valentine's Day episode where Timmy wished all the girls or women were gone. And they went on the other side of they split the earth. And that's one of my favorite episodes, Love Struck. They kind of did the same thing in another episode where they just wished the women were gone for 24 hours. They're repeating wishes. So that kind of shows they're running out of material. However, the introduction of Poof and Anti-Poof and Sparky, especially Sparky, were not the only things that people are saying are ruining the Fairly Odd Parents. In 2011, I think it was, Nickelodeon made a live-action Fairly Odd Parent movie starring Drake Bell and Daniela Monet. Grow Up Timmy Turner. I do have to say, this was kind of genius. I liked it, at least. My friend's telling me on how it's not canon to the whole Fairly Odd series itself, but I enjoyed this film. I enjoyed watching all these characters become live-action people in a live-action replica of Dimmsdale. It was pretty cool on how they made almost everything kind of accurate, and yeah, I just think it's pretty awesome. And it would have made a really great series finale to the Fairly Odd Parents thing in general, seeing on how Timmy's grown up and he's losing his fairies. But, of course, the ending has to make him stay with them forever. Yay. Thought that was the end of it? Well, we got movie number 2, which was a Christmas movie, and by God was that terrible. I hated the Christmas movie for Fairly Odd Parents. The first 2 Christmas specials were genius. I physically hate this Christmas movie that they did. Nothing is good about it. I do not like it one bit. It's cheesy, it's bad, it's just bad all over. And just when I thought it was all over, we got a third film, Fairly Odd Summer, which was okay. I mean, it wasn't bad, it wasn't good, it was okay, and it actually ended the series. Not actually ended the series, but it attempted to. Timmy ended up becoming a fairy, which is kind of funny in this series, and that's kind of how this whole series somewhat ends, or at least it looks that way. But we still have the animated series, so, I mean, you know, we don't know when this is going to end. But the third film, I would say, is a good ending for the whole show. I would have thought maybe the first movie would be a good ending, but can't get it all, you know. However, these movies do not work. I can understand why my friend says they aren't canon, and that's because of Season 9. If you put Season 9 along with these films, it doesn't make sense. Because if Season 9... Let me put it to you this way. We're going to create a Fairly Odd Parent perfect timeline. So in the beginning of the timeline are the Oh Yeah cartoons. And then you have all of Season 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, 7, and 8. Exclude Season 9, put those 3 live-action films, and you have yourself a perfect timeline. And it makes sense. Why not put Season 9? Because it just makes everything complicated. It's just going to ruin the whole timeline. I know some people aren't happy with the way that the third movie ended. They'd rather prefer the ending in Channel Chasers, with Timmy actually being human 20 years later into the future, but I don't know. I mean... I can prefer both. I don't mind either one. I do want to know how Timmy's parents will feel about him being a fairy at the end of the third film, but, you know. But if you put Season 9 into that perfect timeline that we just made, now you have to explain what happened to Sparky, considering that he isn't dead, because fairy dogs do not die. No fairy dies, so it's obvious that he didn't die. He could have ran away, but, I mean, he'd just come crawling back. I mean, you need to explain what happened to Sparky. I understand the first 2 films did not include Sparky because he wasn't a thing at that time, and if you added him in the 3rd film, it'd make everything complicated. But Sparky should not be a thing, alright? You also have the whole Poof can talk thing ruining the timeline in a way, because in the first live-action film, Poof says his first words, supposedly, when in actuality he said it in his debut episode. I mean, I wasn't the only one that heard him say Mom and Dad, or Timmy in the next episode. You know, he does say his first words, but nobody considers them first words. Anyway, there was an episode in Season 9 where they promoted that Poof will finally speak. That episode being about Mr. Crocker taking a job at the fairy school. It's nice. It's just so nice how the promo can say something totally different than what the episode's about. I just love that about Nickelodeon. But at the end of that episode, Poof speaks, and the next episode, he doesn't. Then the episode after that, he's speaking. He's already spoken his first words. If we're going to put these movies in that perfect timeline, Poof cannot speak. Because he speaks in the first film. I don't know. I mean, you can look at it 2 different ways. Exclude the movies and plant Season 9 and whatever else seasons are coming. You know, you can do any of that. I'd prefer it with, like, starting with, oh yeah, cartoon shorts, Seasons 1 through 8, and then the 3 movies. That's how I view it, you know. So, let's recap all this. Why doesn't the Fairly Odd Parents work anymore on Nickelodeon? What about it has made it lose its magic, literally? The fact on how it's trying to stay alive with all these new characters. Now, I said earlier that adding a new character on a show can be good or bad. It depends on how you bring in the character and what his job is throughout the show. Poof at least worked. You could at least do stuff around babies. Yes, you could do stuff around dogs, but when they brought in Sparky, they were not doing something right. They weren't including him in the stories as a main character. He was in an episode for like a brief second once. You know, it's like he's just there. At least with Poof, he is in every scene with Cosmo and Wanda. So the introduction of all these characters, yes, it's making more story plots, but if you've also noticed, with the introduction of these characters, it's killing off other characters. When's the last time we saw Trixie Tang in Season 9 or 8? Last time we saw her was like, what, Wishology? We haven't seen Frances in a long time. We haven't seen Principal, what's her name? I don't know her name, but we haven't seen her. Most of the main characters that were the main characters in the first original run of the show are no longer in this show. We don't see Sanjay or Elmer. We don't see any of them. We rarely see AJ and Chester. The alien Mark Chang. What's that guy? No, he was the singer. Alright, time to look him up. We're gonna look it up now. The Fairly Odd Parents. He sung Shiny Teeth. Chip Skylark. There he is. Chip Skylark. He hasn't been in the show. The Crimson Chin hasn't been in the show. Vicky is rarely in the show anymore. All these characters, not in the show anymore. The show that it used to be is not the show that it is nowadays. I'd also just like to point out that I ultimately hate Timmy's parents now. I didn't want to, but I do now. They were hilarious because, you know, the one running gag in the show is that we don't know their names. They'd always go by Timmy's mom, Timmy's dad. It's hilarious. However, their role in the original run was that they don't care about their son that much, but they do. There are episodes where they just leave and, you know, it's like they're going to do something fun, like go to the beach, and they'd have to lie to Timmy. They're just leaving him with his evil babysitter, Vicky, and it's fine because it's funny. They're at least doing it right. They're doing something right there. I can't explain it because I don't know what it is, but I know they're doing something right. In the new series, they're just dumb. They're stupid. They make because it's a running gag in these cartoons. The adults have to be the idiots. It's like you need to make 1,000 copies of Homer Simpson, Peter Griffin. You need to make a copy of all the stupid dads and moms. They're physically not even caring about Timmy that much anymore in the show. They can somewhat forget that they have a son. So that is why The Fairly Odd Parents does not work anymore on Nickelodeon, nor should it be on Nickelodeon anymore. It's had its fun, it ran its best course, it told really great episodes. If it goes on any longer, it's just going to be a mess. For all we know, this show can go on for 5 more seasons, or 5 more years, and we can get new characters to the point where now it's not even about Timmy, it's about all these other people. Is it a bad thing? No. It can be if you think about it, and if it's not done right, but I don't know what else to say. I just don't think The Fairly Odd Parents, or SpongeBob in this case, should be on television anymore. They should play reruns of old good episodes, which they rarely do, but I just don't think any new episodes should be produced. I think it's run its course. But that's enough for me and my opinion on The Fairly Odd Parents. Now I want to hear your opinion. Have you ever seen The Fairly Odd Parents? What's your opinion on them? Do you like the new episodes? Do you like the old episodes? Which version of The Fairly Odd Parents do you prefer? And do you think Sparky was a good idea? Do you also like the Drake Bell movies? Do you hate the second one? Whatever your answer is, tell me in the comments below, and also leave me a suggestion for whatever movie, TV show, or random thing you want me to review next. Thanks for watching The Wild Review. I'm The Wild Reviewer, and you just saw me review a thing.